Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down the 3-game NBA slate we have here tonight. Sunday night on DraftKings, 3 games, 50K to first, so still a good amount of money to be made. I'll be going over my favorite spin-up plays, mid-range plays, and low-owned value plays we can definitely take a look at and take some dart throws on for tonight's slate. Based on the news we have now, obviously it changes as the day goes on. But if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, turn that notification bell, and let's get into the slate breakdown. Before I get into the slate breakdown, just want to do a quick little recap of one of my lineups yesterday. I did 2. This lineup, I had my core plays of Brunson, Ingram, Torrey Craig, and Isaiah Hartenstein. They all did pretty solid. Obviously, Brunson was very good. Torrey Craig, great. Same with Isaiah. Ingram was a little bit of a letdown. 3 out of the 4, super low ownership, so that's obviously great. Ingram was shot like 5 of 20, which is kind of frustrating, and a very good spot against Atlanta. But he still got you there, didn't harm us. So if you guys played those 4 and built off of it, hopefully you guys cash. This one, cash, I got my money back. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, always will take a cash. And yeah, let's move on to tonight's slate. Huge injury news on the Toronto side. Siakam is out for, I think, the next month. So that's where a lot of the value is going to be coming from on this slate. Only 3 games, so not a lot of plays to get different with. But starting off with Chicago and Toronto. DeMar, Vooch, love them both. If Zach is out, if Zach's in, I still have a good amount of interest in DeMar and Vooch. I'd probably only play one of those 2, and I don't mind taking that shot on Zach if he's in. Hasn't been playing too well this year. 7,300 is a decent price tag for him. He can get really, really hot from the floor, easily pay off that price tag. A little scoring dependent for a guard, especially 7,300, but I think it's just due to the low ownership he'll have if he's playing. You can definitely look to him, but I do prefer Vooch and DeRozan. So yeah, we'll just have to wait on that Zach LaVine news, because if he's out, really like Vooch and DeRozan. Prefer again DeRozan, but I do have a good amount of interest in playing both of them. Io, if Zach's out, should see, a consistent 30 minutes, maybe a tad bit more. Not a high usage guy, but if Zach's out, this will open up more shot attempts for these guards, because they're going to post up Vooch, they're going to post up DeMar. That leads to double teams from Toronto, and they'll end up throwing the ball out to guys like Io on the 3-point line. So 5,200, solid play there. It shouldn't be high owned at all. Caruso, 4,200, a guard, value play here. Not a high usage guy, but could get you there at 4,200. So if you want to get different from the field, you can look to him. Pat Williams will probably be a popular value play if Zach LaVine is out. He's been playing and starting, been playing about 30 minutes the past few games. He's been a lot more aggressive when it comes to shooting the ball. Should be even more aggressive if Zach LaVine is out. Yeah, he's going to get you a few rebounds. It just comes down if he's hitting the shots. So at 3,900, he looks like a pretty solid value play. I'd prefer getting to him if Zach LaVine is out. If Zach's in, you can still get to him, but I don't know if I'd force that. Kobe White's still out. Javonte Green, going to see about 15 to 25 minutes, depending on how well he's doing. You could take that dart, though. I just don't trust it. He's not the best player. He's a high energy guy, so he's going to get that. He's going to get random stats for you, but I just don't know if he could do it 3,500, but, he's worth a dart throw. I prefer getting to Goran Dragic. Not playing a ton of minutes, but he's very aggressive when he's out there. He's shooting the ball a ton, so he can easily pay off that 3,400 salary, especially if Zach's out. If Zach's out, do love some Goran Dragic. If Zach's in, I say Goran's just more of a dart throw at 3,400 to, give you some salary relief. Jones Jr. was getting some minutes, but I don't think he had to go there, and he's also questionable. Toronto side, Pascal's obviously out, so that's a guy with 30+% usage gone, so that bumps up all the starters on Toronto side. Fred VanVleet looks great at 7,600. If he's playing, love him. If he's out, obviously that will bump in a guy like most likely. I don't know how they do the starting lineup, but maybe a guy like Delano Banton gets thrown in. Maybe Malachi Flynn. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. Let's just say as of right now, Fred VanVleet is in. If he's in, I'd say he's almost he's on the fringe, on the cusp of being a core play for me today. He should see at least 40 minutes. I mean, look at the minutes. 39, 38, 39, 39, 39, 34, over 11. That's horrible, but Hasn't played in a few games. Hopefully that back's better, because if he's in, he's going to be playing about 40 minutes. And at 40 minutes with Fred VanVleet, a guy who can get hot from three, he's great at getting the steals. He can do pretty much everything. 7,600 almost becomes a lock. Alongside of him, Scotty Barnes, another guy who they love running at that point forward position. Triple-double last game. Massive upside when it comes to, he's not going to go out there and score like 45 points, 30 plus real-life points, but he's great at getting the assists and rebounds, can get you some steals, so he looks very solid there at 7,100. When it comes to OG and Gary, you can go to OG if you trust him getting those stocks, 3 steals, 2 steals a block, 6 steals and 2 blocks, 5 steals, 1 block, 5 steals. That's insane. He did shoot a little bit more, especially when Pascal was out that last game, but I just don't think you can. I personally can't trust him getting that many steals a game, averaging about 3.5, in the past like 4 games. If you trust that, you can definitely go to him. Obviously, it's a good matchup. 6,200 is a decent price for him. I prefer getting to Gary Trent, even though he's worse at the peripherals, but better at scoring and is scoring dependent. It's just, it comes down to your risk tolerance on whether you trust OG getting those stocks. If not, prefer getting to Gary Trent. They're obviously all going to see a huge bump usage bump, excuse me. 4,400, Boucher should see 25 to 30 minutes. Only issue with him, he's a little bit foul prone, but if he stays out of foul trouble, he can nuke the slate. He's one of those guys who can go out there and get a double-double, go off for like 25 and 15 boards. So good amount of interest in Boucher. I don't mind loading up on the Raptors in Toronto or Raptors in Chicago game. There is that risk that both teams are just running a slow paced, good defense, bad offense type game. But I do like the upside in this game, especially with all the value on this Toronto side. So we'll have to wait on the news, obviously, but love me some Toronto guys. They're obviously all going to be super popular. Precious looks great here. Should see about 25, maybe closer to 30 minutes. Good point per minute guy. He's a nice pivot play off of Boucher, but they both should have a good amount of ownership. And then Otto Porter Jr., a little bit of a revenge game narrative here for him. 3,700. Played 21 minutes after seeing 11, so he should see, I'd say, at least 20 minutes, maybe a little bit more. Kind of a scoring-dependent guy, but if he's going to get 25 minutes, obviously you can easily get to him at 3,700. But yeah, a lot of interest in these Toronto guys. We'll have to wait on that Fred VanVleet news to see who's starting and who's playing. Washington, Memphis. At the top, in between these two games, we got Ja Morant, obviously 10-1. Great spin-up play. We know what we're getting from him. I do think it's, you could definitely get away with fading, a guy like Ja on some spin-up plays, Ja and then like Paul George, because there's enough value, especially with this Toronto side, where you could play, a nice, even, mid-range lineup and still have enough upside to have a takedown without having to pay up for, stars like Ja Morant. But always risky fading him because he's been fantastic this year, has massive upside. So 10-1 looks great there. Beal's obviously out, so that does change things on the Washington side. Porzingis, Bane, Kuzma. In this range, prefer Porzingis 7,900 just because of that double-double upside. The previous two games, 53 fantasy points, 53. So he's very solid. Great matchup here going against Steven Adams. Bane, at that price point, just don't really love it. He obviously has a ceiling, but almost 8K for Bane just looks okay. Kuzma, don't mind taking a shot on Kuzma here. Should see about 30 minutes, scoring dependent, but with Beal out, do expect Porzingis and Kyle Kuzma to be pretty aggressive in this spot here. They should be chucking the ball, so I do have a good amount of interest in them. Dillon Brooks, just a little too scoring dependent for me. We kind of saw a little bit of his ceiling last game. He was 6 or 7 from 3. They blew out Charlotte. But if he's not hitting his shots, he's not going to do much. So he's just more of those dart throws in that 5,900 range. Should be relatively low owned. Steven Adams almost had a triple-double at halftime in 20 minutes against Charlotte. If you want to trust him going off the past 2 games, you can. Be my guest. I'm not. He's just 5,500 for Steven Adams, the guy who his minutes are just not secure. They're all over the place. Don't think you get to force that. Memphis Washington could run small, even with Porzingis, and maybe Steven Adams gets less minutes. Tyus Jones should see 15 to 25, but with all the guards back, don't think you get to force that. Monte Morris Do have some interest in him at 5,000. Should see, I could say, closer to 30 minutes now that Brad Beal's out. They'll probably slide in, where is he? Will Barton into the starting lineup. So you could definitely take a shot on him, 4,200. A little score independent, but obviously at 4,200 should see probably 30 minutes. He looks very solid there. Brandon Clark and Santi, just don't think, I'd prefer getting to Santi just because he's a better shooter, but don't really think it's a force either one of them, especially when you can get to the Toronto guys who have way more upside and way more minutes that are secure. Conchar, Rui, Denny, David Roddy, Kispert, all guys who are going to see minutes, 15 to 20 each. Maybe Rui slides in the starting lineup. We don't really know yet. We'll have to wait on that news. But not a ton of interest in any of these guys. I mean, you could take dart throws on him if you want. Roddy has been getting minutes, doing decent, but not a ton of interest in these guys. And then on to the last game, Utah and the Clippers. Utah side, Laurie's been having a fantastic year. So don't mind getting him at 7,500. Obviously, he can easily get you into the 50-plus fantasy point range. So good amount of interest there. Decent matchup. Clarkson, a little too score independent for me, but he's playing about 30 minutes a game. So don't mind it. Conley, I don't like it at all. Colin Sexton is kind of, getting more minutes in the lineup. Conley kind of had his, ceiling game last game. Don't think it's to force him. Olenek and Vanderbilt do have a decent amount of interest in both of them. They are very, very foul prone. That's the only issue with them, is that you can pretty much expect them to be in foul trouble the whole game. So it's always risky going to them, but they're very, very productive if they're in. Prefer Olenek over Vanderbilt just because he's a better shooter. Sexton, 4,700. Playing close to 25, 30 minutes the past few games. So he's a decent scorer, decent point per minute guy. So at 4,700, do have a good amount of interest in him. That pretty much does it for the Utah side. On the Clipper side, Paul George, he's always under-owned. Not really sure why. He does have a little bit of a floor when he is in there. 9,500. Maybe that price tag scares people away. But, he has a massive upside. I do expect more than, 4 rebounds and 2 rebounds. The assists are great, 5 and 6. He obviously has a ceiling to get more, but do expect more rebounds from him and a few more steals a game. But he's been shooting the ball great the past 2 games, 10 of 20, 11 of 16. Their main guy, Kawhi Leonard's still out, so I like Paul George a good amount just because he always seems super low and does have a massive ceiling. Zubac, I just can't trust it. Here's why. 36 minutes, fantastic. If Zubac is going to be playing, 32 plus minutes a game at 6,500, he looks great. But it's just, before that, 25 minutes, then 32, and then 23, and then 34, 35, 21, 24. It's just random on how many minutes he's going to get a game. In those games, he does get, 30 plus minutes. He's getting a ton of blocks, and he has that double-double upside. But as you can see, the game before, 25 minutes, only 1 block, a steal, 5 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 18.5 fantasy points. So 6,500, maybe he gets extended run just because Utah is, pretty tall. But I just don't know if I can trust that. Morris, 5,800, another guy who's going to have low ownership, playing about 34 minutes a game. So the minutes are there. The shot attempts are there. It's just he hasn't always been productive. So at 5,800, just more of a contrarian play if you want to go there for low ownership. Reggie, playing the minutes, just not doing much. Not a high usage guy when, Paul George is in. He's just a dart throw at that range now. Prefer getting to John Wall. He's a little bit more of a high usage guy when he's out there. Kind of like a Malcolm Brogdon role. That guard coming off the bench, they're going to look to score. They're going to look to pass, get aggressive when they're out there. 4,900, don't mind getting to him. Powell is just kind of like Reggie Jackson. They're both getting a decent amount of minutes. It's just they're not doing well at all this year. So it's just more of dart throws. Covington, 4,600 is just there. Don't think he could do that. Maybe sees 15, 20 minutes at most. Luke Kennard's out. Do expect that to open up maybe a few more minutes for a guy like Batum. Most likely Man. Should see maybe 15 minutes. So I really only prefer getting to Paul George and then John Wall on this side. Yeah, so as of right now, we still have to wait on some news for, who's starting for Memphis or who's starting for Washington and who's starting for Toronto. But as of right now, really like Scotty, really like Fred VanVleet. Let's just assume Zach LaVine's out for right now. I would say, have to get to DeMar, even though he is score independent at times. As you can see, the previous games, 33, only 37 fantasy points, 24, only 32. But he does have a massive ceiling. And when Zach's out, DeMar commands just an insane usage. So really like him. In my fourth one, Let's get a little bit, I don't know, different, but let's look here. I really like Porzingis in this matchup, in this, pace up matchup against Memphis. So as of right now, we have to wait, obviously, on that Toronto news, Memphis news, or Toronto news and the Washington news. But right now, the core plays heading into tonight's slate are going to be Scotty Barnes, DeRozan, Porzingis, and Fred VanVleet. So if you guys are new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Make sure to follow me on Twitter to stay updated with the core plays, because they'll most likely change once we get those news for those two teams. But yeah, if you guys like the video, do appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.